Super Rugby Unlocked Saturday games. I've literally just recorded a video about the Springboks pulling out of the Rugby Championship. So that's kind of disheartening. But what is not disheartening is the fact that we get to see at least these Super Rugby Unlocked teams get to play with all their Springbok talent in them as well. And hopefully these guys can put in some performances for us this weekend. There's two games. The Pumas against the Griquas. I am working on like magnets, so that's coming. Apologies for just having put that there. I will not be able to get a jersey before Super Rugby Unlocked is done, so that is what it is. And the second game is the Stormers against the Lions, so there is certainly lots to like about the games this weekend. The first one, which is the Griquas against the Pumas, 4:30 on Saturday. The Griquas, man, they were pretty bloody good last week, weren't they? Peter did me a good favor and sent me some information about the Griquas team, which is really helpful, so thank you for that, mate. Because a lot of these guys I'm not that familiar with. I think maybe like George Whitehead, James Verdiam, like these are the players whose names I at least were aware of before the season even started. I did manage to get a look at some of these guys and their game against the Bulls last week as well, and man, were they impressive. Like, of the losing teams, actually them and the Lions were both pretty solid, you'd have to say. So I'm hoping to see more from the Griquas in this one, because yeah, they certainly impressed in the first time I'd ever seen them last week. And it looks like to me that they've pretty much named the same team as last week. Like Whitehead's still there, Berger's still there. The front row, Misoli, Luce, and Jenkinson seems the same. So Verdiam, who was electric last week, is still there on the left wing. Cassander is... Cassander? He was good last week as well. I think he stopped a couple of tries. Daniel Cassander, the right winger. So yeah, that's like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And that seems to be the philosophy that the Griquas are going with this week. The Pumas, on the other hand, seems to have made a heck of a lot of changes. Now the Pumas, again, first game seeing them last week, bit of a game of two halves. They kind of got partly annihilated in that first half against the Cheetahs, but they had a hell of a second half. Showed some really good fight back, and yeah, that was really pleasing to see. Unfortunately, it looks like their big lock, LaRue Roots, is out with an injury, and he was pretty influential last week. They got a try, didn't he? So yeah, that's unfortunate. They've brought in Vestrad as the hooker. He was on the bench last week. They've kept both the props, Kramer and Nauda. They've got Landsberg, who's come in from the bench. They've got Peter Janssen van Vuren, who's come in as captain and as the other lock. I don't think he even played last week. Kleinhans has also come in at the 6th jersey. Engelbrecht has switched, I think, from 8 to 7. Rudolph comes up from the bench to play number 8. The 19 combo of Smuts and Fouché is still the same. Van der Bank, I think, switches from 13 to 12. Cronje is a new addition. Talyard on the right wing is a new addition. They've still got Moritz on the one wing and Devin Williams at fullback. So, man, it's a heck of a lot of changes for the Pumas. I'm not sure if this is just rotation, injury enforced, whatever it is. You guys who are more local to the scene will have to let me know. I think on my Super Bowl I picked the Griquas home value and on the back of last week's kind of 80-minute performance. But if the Pumas can play for 80 minutes like they did for 40 minutes last week, an upset would not surprise me. The bookies over here in New Zealand have got the Griquas by 10. And Rugby Forecast algorithm, which looks at like previous results between the teams, interestingly has the Pumas by 1. So there's a split there. The next one, which is the Stormers against the Lions. Lions also do not have a win yet. They lost last week to the Sharks. Stormers have not had a game. So they started with a bye. Obviously, there's 7 teams. So there's always going to be one team on the bye. The Lions have kind of resisted the urge to make huge changes. I think it's only one change, and that's Van der Berg comes in as the number 9. Whereas the rest of the team pretty much seems the same. Sitole, Pisaki, Sadi front row. Alberts continues on a lock. Ori, Creel, Chituka, Masane. Yankees is still 10. So he was a bit hot and cold last week, you'd have to say. Maxwane, Dan Creel, Bugo Undal continues his emerging career as an outside centre. I've only really known him as a 12 personally, but again, I haven't been watching him anywhere near as much as probably some other people have. Ulingo scored a try last week. He's on the right wing. Phil Ewan there at fullback. So Similani is still riding the pine, which is a bit disappointing because he seems the business. Daimani is still there on the bench. So, Now the Stormer side was an interesting one to see because they haven't played yet. What kind of side would they come out with? It's a pretty good one. Pretty good one, man. You got Kitsov and Bonambi and Malherba, so all Springbok front row. Murat and Schikkeling is one of the better locking duos domestically based in South Africa, you'd have to say. Khaleesi, Springbok captain at 6. Van Ryn and Augustus. Augustus, former like junior world player of the year, number 8, was having a great season pre-lockdown. Herschel, Yankees, star of last year, number 9. Willemse, interestingly, gets the nod at 10. Maybe a bit of pressure on him after Superfan Saturday, after Bok Showdown. Maybe. Was not his finest hour. Like, if there was one guy who probably had the least impressive outing, it was probably Damian Willemse. And I like him. People have told me when I've kind of bigged him up before, he kind of decision-making under pressure is a bit to be desired. He's still a young man, so I still believe he can get it right. He's got the skills. It's just the execution at times and decision-making. Pretorius and Duplessis. It's Dan Duplessis at 12-13. Sergio Peterson's on the right wing. I think he's coming back from injury. Zas is on the left wing, and Galant is there at 15. So you got Interbeni, you got another Springbok on the bench. Tim Sviel, Chris Van Sale, and others. So it's a heck of a good look at Stormers team. And despite the fact that they are coming off a bye early and maybe a bit rusty, the bookies over here in New Zealand, I guess they're at home. And that lineup full of Springboks have got them by 9. Rugby Forecast algorithms got the Stormers by 7. So they go into this one as favourites. Even though I think the Lions probably exceeded expectations since returning to the game after lockdown. This is not the same Lions team that was the Lions team losing most of their games prior to the lockdown. So that one's from Cape Town, 7 o'clock on Saturday in South Africa. I believe that is 6 in the morning over here in New Zealand. So, yeah, some interesting looking fixtures. Do continue to feed me the insights into some of the players. You guys have been more than kind in terms of giving me some ideas on players to look out for. I do appreciate that. Disappointing news about the Springboks. I know some Springbok fans will be relieved, some will be disappointed. But either way, this competition goes on. Let's hope the guys can continue a good run and continue what was a pretty successful start to the competition. So, yeah, you guys let me know your thoughts on the games, and I'll talk to you again soon. See you later.